What feels like a lifetime ago, someone I loved very much once took off her glasses, crippling her vision while we were watching the fireworks at the Texas Renaissance Festival to, in her words, see things like you do. And that relationship has since soured and severed. And very much like that, I feel that over the past few years, my connection with people of faith has soured and separated. But to maybe bring it full circle, I truly do want to see the world the way you do, even if we don't end up agreeing on anything. So if you want to tell us your point of view and show us your world, then give us a call because the show starts now. Hello there, everyone out there in internet land. My name is Jamie the Blind Limey, and this is Talk Heathen. And today I am joined by Scott Dickie. How are you doing there, Chief?
Doing great, doing great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. So,
awesome.
As ever, Talk Heathen is a call-in show. We go live at 1 p.m. Central every Sunday. And if you want to get involved, you can give us a call at 512-991-9242, old school, or on your computer go to, oh, hang on, I think we may have changed the link, pardon me. I think I may have changed the link. Oh, I'm so unprofessional.
The new link for calling in.
That's aca.show/call.
There we go.
This is what you get when you have to memorize things. So yes, aca.show/call. I'm not going to forget it again now. We are also tri-streaming. So hello out there to all you vertical people on YouTube mobile. And also hello everyone on TikTok. And you on there on TikTok can also get involved. If you put up a request, then you will be brought up. You do have to be over the age of 18, and we may inquire as to your age when you come up, just for TikTok's T's and C's. So just to remind everyone that Talk Heathen is a show, a product of the atheist community of Austin, a 501c3 non-profit organization dedicated to atheism, critical thinking, secular humanism, and the separation of religion and government. And so, how the devil are you, Scott? What's been going on with you and what's on your mind?
Just adjusting to my summer schedule. But before we get too far into things, I do want to reach out and give a happy Father's Day. It's Father's Day today in America.
Hey.
And so I want to say happy Father's Day to all the fathers and father figures out there. It's a tough job being a parent, and so it's nice to get some kind of recognition or connection there with your parentees. And so happy Father's Day. It's also World Humanist Day today too. So happy humanism out there for everyone.
And our surrogate fathers, uncles, weird cousins, aunts, and sisters and brothers, and humanists are the crew. So I would like to bring up the crew. We have our call screeners, we have our note takers, we have our audio and our video. We've got mods in the chat. We've got so many people who make this show possible. So say hello to every one of them, because they do what they do. They don't get paid for it, and they're fantastic. And if you want to join their beautiful ranks, you absolutely can do so. It appears that I have turned into a handsome doctor, but there we go. Yep. But the back to normal now. You're going to have to deal with this ugly shit. But if you want to get involved and be one of these wonderful volunteers, then you simply need to drop an email to volunteer@atheist-community.org. It will go through to our volunteer coordination, and you may be able to become one of them. Get on audio, get on video, get trained to do all the backroom stuff, and potentially even become a host. So, seeing things through each other's eyes.
Yeah.
We're talking empathy and understanding. I feel the world's kind of been lacking in that recently. And I feel I've been going to bat for religious folks more than criticizing a lot of them these days. Partially to get that understanding, partially because I having been in groups that are kind of under attack from the establishment, I kind of feel for them. You know, I can empathize. What do you think about like reaching out to people of faith?
Well, I think it's, I mean, very often on shows like Talk Heathen, we see interactions with non-believers as a conflict, as a confrontation. And I mean, I think there's a place for that to some extent. But I also think that what we often miss out on is that connection with each other. We have so much in common, and we have so much that we could at least understand if we could make an effort. And I think having empathy and trying to make connections with people. I mean, as a teacher, that's something that I like to focus on a day-to-day basis. But I like to even take it into the shows here too. And Jamie, I know that you do to some extent as well.
Yeah.
And that you know, making an effort to make that physical, or not physical, but make that conceptual connection at least. And I know that part of it is being able to present your own position, right? This is Talk Heathen. We like to talk about, you know, the things that we believe and don't believe, and things that we like to promote and not promote, and that kind of thing. But it also requires making an effort to try to understand, or at least try to keep the communication open with people that have strongly opposed disbeliefs. You mentioned already, Jamie, that, you know, it seems like these days we're more and more divided, and whether or not that's the case, I don't know. It seems like, you know, at any time people were feeling divided, but I do feel like that, like it's something, you know, that's something that we need to address. And so I think step one, at least, can be try to see things from the point of view of the person you're talking to. That makes a connection with them. It makes them more comfortable talking about things that they believe in. And it also makes them more emotionally and, you know, available to consider what you're saying too. I mean, if you show that you're willing to look at things from the perspective of someone else, maybe that would, you know, give them more of an opportunity and more motivation to try to see things from your perspective as well.
Yeah, certainly. And the thing is that belief in all of its forms, be it belief in a higher power or God, or religious belief, or belief in like the supernatural, or any kind of belief that is somewhat irrational or is difficult to explain, or the evidence has been rejected by, you know, people in our kinds of circles. It's still a very human emotion. It's a very human concept to believe in something. And I think that tapping into our humanism, like I say, we're a humanist organization, we're about secular humanism. And I think that trying to understand, if we can't understand the belief itself and the reasons that they believe it, like what evidence can you give me for X belief, be it ghosts or spirits or God, we at least can try and empathize with the why behind it. Like, why do you feel the need to believe? What is it bringing to your life that nothing else can? Like, what is it that you're getting out of it, basically? Because I think if we drill down into that core need that is being filled by this belief, then we can maybe find a connection there. Because, an example, the C and ACA community, it's what we're trying to build. We are doing more stuff in person. We are doing more outreach work these days. And that is that's a very deep-rooted need in people. And to find a belief in common with other people, for example, my belief in the efficacy of the scientific method, or the secular humanist way of life, or way of worldview is the best one to go for. I've found kinship. I've found that community, and other people find that community through faith, through God. Any thoughts on sort of faith as a belief as a gateway to filling a need?
Well, I think it does play a role in that. I mean, we're social creatures, right? We desire, we yearn, we are motivated to make connections with people, and very often that can be based off of things that we agree on, whether that's religious faith, whether it's, you know, love for a particular tabletop role-playing game, whether it's you know, an interest in philosophy or whatever. There's lots of things that we can use to promote that community. But like you were saying before about you know, trying to see things from other perspectives, I think that can help us allow those community building instincts to be active and to help us to make friends, help us to make communication, help us to have conversations with people, help us to learn more about what it's like to be human. I mean, we're all human, but we're not all humanity, each of us, right? We still, each of us only experiences a tiny sliver of the human experience. And so the more we learn from each other, the better, the more we'll know about this universe, about this world, about our society, about our community, about our families, about ourselves. And so, so yes, definitely, I think faith can be something that brings people together. Obviously, I would argue that there are, many downsides to doing something that way. But we do have that natural instinct to try to be a community, and I think that should be embraced, and I think that should be embraced beyond our comfort level as well. I think we should, if we make efforts to push that community outside of our little tent. Yep. And into a bigger tent, and then that we're all in the same situation. So if we're all working together, that can be very helpful.
Yeah, I mean, there's you were talking about an experience that you had in the green room earlier, where you engaged with a believing friend of yours to try and reach an honest understanding of each other's position.
Sure.
I find that really heartening to hear about.
This friend of mine, he's a Christian, and he was, I'm not sure if he still is, but he was a minister and had aspirations to become an apologist, and I think he's kind of moving along that road. But he challenged me to pray for 30 days. He said, would you do this challenge? Or I think what happened was he just kind of gave the challenge out just in general, like on Facebook or something. He said, if you're a non-believer, I challenge you to do this, or something along those lines. Yeah. My point, though, is that the idea was that I would pray every day for 30 days, and I would read the Bible every day for 30 days. And so what my friend did is every day he would send me a passage in the Bible to read, and a prompt that I could focus on during my prayer time. And I decided pretty early on, in fact, before we even started, I decided that I wanted to try to take this seriously. I wanted to really try to set aside, not set aside my skepticism, but set aside any any biases that I could set aside, any preconceived notions, and just kind of go into it with as much of an open mind. Now, I'm a human being, of course, and I do have biases, and it's difficult. It's a difficult thing to be truly open-minded, and so, but I was able to do it to the extent where my friend at least acknowledged that I was giving it a try. I do see that we have a TikToker that's ready to come up, and so people don't just want to hear me talk, and so let's put a pin on this story, and we can continue this later on. But what would you say about heading to TikTok world for a little bit?
Yeah, let's bring him on, and just if you would, as soon as he brings up, and we can acknowledge he's old like us. Can you hear us?
I'm on the phone. Okay, bye. Sorry, my kid was asking me a question just right now.
That's fine.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Kids asking questions is something that we encourage. So,
By the way, happy Father's Day, guys.
And to yourself, yeah.
Thank you.
And I want to thank you. I am been deconstructive for over a decade, and actually today's my wedding anniversary. We've been married for 11 years.
Congratulations.
It's a great day to be alive and have a community of atheists that are discussing things. And unfortunately, we have to discuss this fairy tale because it's affecting our lives. And it's hypocritical because their book tells them to Caesar was Caesar's and to God was God. But we have people in government that are putting their fairy tales beliefs ahead of the Constitution. And having these discussions is something that a decade ago I would have loved to have. A community was something that I had to give up when I became an atheist because, they don't want you. If you're an atheist, they don't want you. So all those people that I knew, they never came back and talked to me, especially because I told them that the scripture tells them if somebody rejects your message, they're supposed to turn around, dust their feet off, and leave you alone. So I told that to my pastor, and I'm sure he related that to the rest of the congregation, because I've never seen them since I left, and I'm glad. I'm fine. I'm glad that I have a community now that, like, I see, and my purpose on TikTok, besides entertainment, is to encourage you guys to keep going, because you're doing something that's going to help humanity, especially help our country. And these fairy tales need to go away, because they have caused nothing but harm. If we had to see the outcome between people that are not religious and people that are religious, we'll see that the good is basically going to fall on the people that are not religious, because the religious people have caused a lot of harm. So the bad always outweighs.
I'm gonna just push back a little bit on that, Tony. I will absolutely get on board with the fact that religion as a concept, and the fact that all religions are based on essentially a deception at the top of the pyramid, this unprovable fact of a God existing. I'm absolutely on board with all of that. It has done irreparable harm in some places, but I would always hesitate to draw my guns on religious people as a whole, because they're not perpetrators, they're victims. Like, they've been suckered in by this issue, and they have sometimes abrogated their morality and their wealth, and they've given it all to the church for salvation or comfort or community, and then they have all that taken away when they step away. Sometimes it varies church to church and congregation to congregation. It can get real bad. It sounds like your journey was real bad. So I'm glad you found community. And I'm honoured that you would take time out of not only your Father's Day, but your anniversary as well, to talk to us. But I would urge compassion for the people. That's what humanism is about. What do you think about that?
You're right. They are victims, and you are helping them see that. And I just want to remind everybody listening that the Greeks showed us that gods that need human defense are no gods at all. Be
That's a good point.
Yep.
Be good without a leash, guys. What I mean is, be good without having a little leash telling you better be a good boy or you're gonna get a whooping, or a leash that tells you, hey, if you're good, we're gonna give you a treat because you're a good boy. No, be good because we can do it. History has shown that a lot of places without religious influence have been good. We have Japan, Denmark. That's the current ones that have more atheists are usually the places that are happiest and more peaceful. So thank you for what you're doing, guys. Keep up the good work, and I'll come.
Say, Tony, before you head off here, I just wanted to quick ask you: do you have any? So you were saying that you're basically your family, I would assume, or your community kind of shunned you after you came out as an atheist. Have you had any success stories? Were there any people that stuck with you and you were able to maintain that community?
No, they reject
that's
me,
frustrating.
But I have a community now of people here on TikTok that are like-minded, and they're also victims who left the torture. And I'm just glad that you guys are doing what you're doing, because we need to step up, be brave, and fight the evilness that religion brings.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, we'll take it one step at a time, and I do agree that the encroachment of religion into the halls of power here in America may not sound like it from the accent, but I'm in Texas, is definitely a big problem, and we're all about the separation of religion and government. But it's been an honor talking to you, Tony.
Thanks a lot, Tony.
If you got to pop off, enjoy the rest of your Father's Day, enjoy the rest of your anniversary.
You guys heard of Joel Osteen? I mean, that.
Oh yeah, we know him.
The figures that my pastor, he pretty much loved that guy. Yeah.
He's one of the bad ones, like the Kenneth Copelands and the Creflo Dollars and the Joel Osteens. I hate the prosperity gospel, and I think a lot of other Christians hate it too.
They're thieves because their God's not real and their God cannot create anything popular. They have to steal, like TV was stolen, radio was stolen, and now TikTok is being stolen because, they cannot have a God that gives them anything popular. So they have to steal the purpose of other things. So thank you for what you're doing, guys. I appreciate you.
All right. Thank you, Tony.
Happy to talk to you.
It can be very frustrating hearing
Yeah.
stories like that about families breaking down, about friend circles breaking down, about communities breaking down, and that's the flip side of the coin of what we were talking about. I mean, we're all humans. We all desire to have that community, but also as humans, we also desire to have a them and an us, right?
Yeah.
It's a fairly instinctual thing that doesn't mean that will be a productive thing to follow, but at least we can understand why we have those feelings. And so when we see families break down with a religious excuse, that's just one more way that we can cause division and come up with excuses to not reach out to each other and to not have empathy and to not try to understand each other. And it's really, really very sad. It's very sad because things that could be there are not, and just break down when that happens.
And again, we'll put a pin in that for a moment because we've got another caller on the line. I've got to do a quick couple of announcements first, and then we shall segue immediately into the next call. So, Sean, oh dear, my microphone just broke.
All right. Well, how about I'll read the announcements here while you're getting your microphone fixed. So the ACA wants you to know what's going on in your community or in our community. Head to www.atheist-community.org, where you can learn about the organization itself, its policies, and how you can get involved. We also have merch available. You got T-shirts, we got mugs, we got all kinds of stuff. If you're interested in supporting the show and the ACA in general, you can buy some of our merch at tiny.cc/merch ACA. Oh, it looks we have a new link there, aca.show/merch. I believe that the old links will continue to work for a while, but we're kind of transitioning to we want to compartmentalize all the links on our own system here. But you can go to show.aca or aca.show/merch to find our merchandise.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So.
Okay, so we got the merch, we got the links. Did you shout out the super chats if you want to? Having something suddenly break in front of you really does willies up. But anyway, super chats. If you want to get involved with helping us do what we do by throwing us a few coins, a couple of coins in the jar, send us a super chat. We'll read it online as long as it doesn't break T's and C's, and you can make me say some very stupid stuff if you want to. And lastly,
can I send super chats too? Then
you can absolutely if you want me to, recite the Gilbert and Sullivan or something. And then, of course, if you have feedback for us, you can send praise, criticism, ideas to tv@atheist-community.org. That's our main sort of feedback channel. You want to send us a screed, send it there. But without further ado, we have Sean in California, who wants to ask, where is the common ground between theists and atheists in the community? And he has labeled himself as a theist. Him. So come on up then, Sean. There you go.
Hello.
Hey, Sean. How you doing, sir?
Oh, not too bad. How are you guys?
Great.
Pretty good. Apart from apparently my bedroom's falling to pieces in front of me, but we do what we can. So, could you give us a bit more context as to your question? Like, what's on your mind?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess full disclosure, I've never actually listened to you guys. It popped up on my live feed, and I'm kind of like killing time at work, and I was listening to you guys. And when you guys were talking about like community and the need for like this moral ought and all this kind of stuff, a lot of it resonated. I thought, I'm like, oh man, this is really good stuff. And then your last caller called in, and I was kind of like blown away. I'm like, oh man, does this guy? Is this actually an atheist position, or is he just, I guess, simple, for lack of a better word? So I guess from your guys' perspective, and this is just me more or less spitballing. I'm not a philosopher or anything like that. But you know, I'm hearing you call for this need of, I guess, more or less community and understanding between belief systems, which, you know, I think I can get on board with that.
Mm-hmm.
But when you where do you think there can be room for common ground when we're saying two very different things, in the sense of, on one hand, I'm saying I believe that there's sound evidence for a deity. I'm Christian. I think there's sound evidence for Christianity. You can accept or reject it. Quite frankly, I don't care. But
okay,
and I understand. I mean, like, obviously, yes, I care for your soul and blah blah blah. But does it actually affect my day to day? No. But then I have never once, and this is probably me speaking in extremes. I guess maybe I have, and I just wasn't aware of it. But I don't think I've ever once spoken to an atheist who wasn't extreme about his beliefs, in the sense of, like, immediately going into, you know, oh, well, Sky Daddy this and you know, this and that. Where and I guess I'm just trying to understand, because on one hand you're trying to promote community, but on the other hand you're appealing to this moral ought. And I don't actually.
I never said that. Did you say that, James?
I'm not saying that we ought to form community. What I'm saying is that community is often something that people, social animals, desire, and that finding that community is sometimes brought about by common interest, but sometimes it's brought about by common belief or faith, and it's fulfilling the same need. And now it sounds, Sean, like you've had some bad experiences probably with the denizens of r/atheism and the like. There are plenty of self-important and angry atheists out there for many reasons. We are not a monolith. Every atheist is not exactly an island unto themselves, but here on Talk Heathen, we very specifically and definitely want to have conversations rather than fights. Not to comment on the previous call particularly much, but when someone has had a really traumatic experience with religion and leaving religion, I mean, it's understandable. They're going to have some resentment and they're going to want to fight back. Well, that's why I asked for compassion for believers.
And this is where I'm not going to lie. I've tried to understand the atheistic position on this, and I just don't. So maybe you guys can explain it to me.
Well, the atheist position, there isn't an atheist position on anything, because atheism is just an answer to a question. Do you believe there is a God or gods? I do not believe there is a God or gods. What specific positions have you had problems with?
Right, and that's what I was going to say is, specifically when you're talking about people with quote unquote religious trauma, or, you know, your last caller was complaining that, oh, well, you know, this oppressive religious structure. And I have to ask them, in what possible way have you been oppressed by religion?
Well, don't ask him. Ask us. We're the ones you're talking to.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Okay. All right, fine. I can point the question. How have you found religion to be oppressive?
Well, I have the fortunate thing of being a cishet white male. So religion's been relatively benign to me, apart from the fact that several good friends of mine who were the children of Jehovah's Witnesses were hideously hurt by people in their organization, and then the organization covered it up because it wasn't seemly for elders of the JWs to be seen to be unseemly. Also, directly, their dogma do not provide a blood transfusion. One of my friends was in a very serious car accident, and because of the faith of his parents that they had imparted onto him, it made his treatment and recovery from the injuries sustained during that incident considerably more difficult and dangerous. So those are a couple of examples from my life specifically. Broader, we have religious organizations like the Heritage Foundation advising people in power to put into place things like massive abortion bans that result in dead women or brain dead women being used as incubators because everyone's too afraid to do an abortion because these laws have become draconian, and that has been pushed by the religious right. So plenty of people are oppressed and demonstrably harmed by the misuse of religion. Not all religion, not all Christianity, but the misuse and usurpation of these dogmas and faiths.
Right, but I'm not going to defend Jehovah's Witnesses. So I'll grant you that one. But as far as and I've heard a lot of people complain about the oppression against human rights, specifically through abortion and this and that. But I don't actually understand the argument from your perspective, because you seem to be inserting some sort of innate human value, and I don't understand where you're deriving that from.
Wait, but before we go any further with this, I just wanted to address the question that you said was, where is there common ground between theists and atheists in community? Were you asking that? Were you asking that in the spirit of seeking to find common ground, or were you asking that as a challenge that there is common ground? Because it seems like what the specific things you wanted to talk about were areas where we differ in our opinions, and that's fine. We're happy to talk about that if that's what you want. But are you saying that there is no common ground to be found, or are you saying that there is?
I think there is common ground, and that's kind of what I was trying to get at is these moral oughts. You were just appealing to women's rights. Okay. Now, as a Christian, I would appeal to the Imago Dei. And under the Imago Dei, women's rights fall under, okay? Now, we can disagree on how that plays out, and the practical application of that. But I think we all agree in general human rights. And that's where I find these arguments oftentimes disingenuous, or at the very least, people tend to strawman other people's positions a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We don't want to do that. So
you're saying that are you saying that? Sorry, go ahead.
No, for example, and I'm not saying you said this, but it's an argument I've heard through, TikTok, various different sources, is like, oh, well, Christians are using abortion laws to oppress women, or or that something along the lines of, this is just a means of control. And
no. I'd agree with that.
And I would push back and say hard, no, I don't see this as a means of control. I see this as looking at the world as it exists and finding the most moral path. I'm not saying the truly moral path. It's just the most moral path available to us.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, let's see if we can start this from a place of agreement. You said that there are some areas that we agree on, that we would call common ground. I would assume that you believe that somebody who is pregnant is still a human being and has human rights. Would we agree on that?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm not trying to say that there might not be other parties involved in these decisions, but at least we can agree on that the person who is pregnant does have rights to their own body. Do you think that they should be able to decide whether or not another person can inhabit their body as a home?
No.
You think that they shouldn't have that opportunity? Somebody should be able to move into somebody else's body and live there?
So, well, okay, let me rephrase that a little bit. Well, I meant no in the sense of how you meant it, but as a whole, yes, she does have that decision. So, yes, a woman should have the right to choose whether or not she becomes pregnant.
Well, what about after she's pregnant?
Yep. What if she
loses? Is that right lost then? Is she no longer human?
No, she is human, but she's made her decision.
No, she hasn't.
The same way, if I have my human rights, if I choose to go whatever my choice may be, whether it be good or bad, I have to live with those consequences. That's just the nature of the world we live in.
Well,
So give me a specific example of you making a decision, having consequences, and then living with those consequences. Let's get a concrete example here.
Having a kid, going through with it all the way to the point of birth, and now that child is my responsibility. Period. The end. I don't get to decide now that the kid is born that, okay, you know what, this isn't for me.
But Sean, how much physical danger does that scenario put you in?
Yeah, we're not talking about somebody living in your body.
Yeah, like
right?
Pregnancy isn't a small thing. It's extremely traumatic, life-changing,
really.
body-changing, and body-altering. It's not fun.
I mean, it's a little body altering, so is aging.
Do you think that? Do you think
Oh
that
God.
having an abortion is something that is done against the will of the person who is pregnant?
I think it's done against the will of the baby, who I would.
That was not the question that I asked you. Do you think it's done against the will of the person who is pregnant?
Do I think abortion is done against the will of the person who's pregnant?
Right.
I don't think that was so. Yes and no. Obviously, no one's just dragging people in and making them abort. However, I would argue that nobody who has an abortion is given the full facts. They're not told that they are in greater danger physically having an abortion than they are going through with the pregnancy.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you right there. I'm gonna stop you right there. Could I just ask I'm not going to bring him up fully, but could I have the medical doctor in the background just say a word?
You have doctors on standby.
Whether that's true or not, because I think that's bullshit. It's far, far, far more dangerous to have a pregnancy rather than to that. What do you think about that, Dr. Ben, MD? Right. So sorry for breaking my promise on letting you stay down there in the background there, Ben. I'll drop you back down. Thank you very much.
Bullpen Ben.
Yeah. But yeah, so Sean, a doctor has just told you that that's wrong. So that you can't use that argument anymore. Would you like to give us another reason why women shouldn't be able to get an abortion?
I mean, so for the record, I mean, I didn't actually hear what he said.
However, he said
you're wrong.
Yeah, it's exponentially more dangerous to have a full-term pregnancy, and it's way safer to have an elective abortion. Medically.
Okay, so like, did he cite specifically at which week it becomes more dangerous? Is the woman ever not in danger? Because obviously, an abortion at 1 week is different than an abortion at 20 weeks.
Yeah, but late-term abortions are almost always done to women who want to keep the baby but can't for medical reasons. They're already in massive amounts of danger, like ectopic pregnancies or preeclampsia. You know, you don't abort past the second trimester unless, like, do this or the mother will die or suffer extreme physical trauma.
So is your argument that never happens?
But no, we were addressing your point that people that are pregnant are not given complete information because they weren't told that having an abortion is much more dangerous than having a pregnancy. That's false. That's not the case. According to our doctor on standby, it's for any week. Okay, it's not that some periods it's more dangerous and some periods it's less dangerous. And so that's what we were addressing. Your claim that they're not given complete information, the thing you were saying that they needed to be told was false. So that's not with information being withheld.
Like, again, I don't think because I didn't hear him just saying that it's false. There's 1,000 factors that go into this, and there's no way
he's a doctor.
I've heard doctors make, like, I'm not a doctor. I'll admit that right off the bat, but I'm not making this argument up. I've listened to MDs explain this very thing. Okay. It's like,
Well,
if you just want to appeal, if you just want to appeal to authority, then I guess, sure, that's kind of an argument.
that is not what we're doing. It's not just this doctor, it is the medical consensus. But let's go ahead and say we're just not going to agree on this. Again, the internet is rife with dudes talking about abortion like we have any real right to actually say about it, because I don't have a uterus. Pretty sure Scott doesn't, and I'm assuming you don't, Sean. So maybe
but you're also dodging the point that I brought up earlier. Okay, we said that I asked you, do you think people that are getting abortions are having them done against their will? And you agreed that at least some of them, I would argue that the vast majority of abortions are not taking place against the will of the person that is pregnant. Okay, so that in that case, that is not in accordance with what they want. They want the person, the fetus, whatever the thing. I'm using the word person because I'm assuming that you assume that a fetus is a person, which is a separate issue, and I'm not, trying to force that particular issue right now. But even if we assume that it's a person, you still have the right to ask another person to not live in your body. Don't you see that?
So I don't understand where do you get this right from? Where do you get this sense of bodily autonomy?
Bodily autonomy.
You agreed.
You tell people
You agreed with what we said before. You said you agreed that a person can determine for their own body whether or not somebody else lives inside of them. Or are you changing that now? Or maybe I misunderstood what you said.
I agreed a person should have the choice on whether or not to get pregnant. I believe that is 100% should be a choice to get pregnant.
Yeah,
Once you have gotten pregnant, now that your choice has been made.
Okay, Sean, it feels like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you're saying that consenting to sex is consenting to pregnancy.
100%, because unless you're an idiot, you know the risks of having sex.
Okay. Is driving a car consenting to be in a road accident?
You're consenting to the risk of being in a road accident.
Okay.
But are you consenting to the accident?
Yeah, you're consenting to the accident. And if you have that accident, you should have thought of that in the first place. So we're going to withhold medical treatment from you.
Right.
Silly.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and you can't go fixing your car because that would be dodging the consequences, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do I get to force a mechanic to fix my car?
That's not what we're asking.
No, the analogy here is you are the pregnant woman, and the car is the problem, and the consequences and the injury to you that you will have sustained by having an accident you didn't ask for, but was caused as a consequence of you taking the risk of driving. So there's no mechanic involved. What you're saying is, can I force a mechanic to fix my car? It'd be like me saying, can I force a doctor to give someone an abortion? No, you can't. You can't force a doctor to give you an abortion. They will give you one if they feel it's medically necessary and if they're allowed to.
Medically necessary? Is that the only condition they give abortions?
You're still dodging. You're still dodging the question.
I'm acknowledging you guys you guys are throwing a lot at me. I'm acknowledging them as they come up. Okay.
All right.
So
that's fair.
What is it specifically? What is it specifically that you think I'm dodging?
Because it seems like you don't want any abortions of any kind for any reason.
Oh, it's something I would be willing to compromise on if specifically for the reason of numbers, okay? Now, in an ideal world, no, I would prefer that there are no abortions for any reason. However, we don't live in an ideal world, and I have to play the hand I'm dealt. So, if I could ban abortion tomorrow across the board, would I? No, I think there would be way too many complications with that. If I could decrease the number of abortions by even half, would I? In a heartbeat. So I understand it's a nuanced issue. I am well aware of that. All right. I understand that sometimes it is medically necessary. I would argue that it is rarely medically necessary.
So going back to Jamie's, and here's what I was suggesting that you were dodging. Going back to Jamie's example of the car. You said when you drive a car, you understand and accept the risk of getting in an accident, and we agree with that. I think we know that when you go out to drive, there's a chance that you're going to have damage done to your car or yourself or your surroundings or whatever. That's fine. What you're saying, analogously, is that if you accept that risk, you get in an accident, but then you put your car back to the way it was. You take your car into the repair shop. You're not forcing the mechanic to do anything. You're hiring them to do this. They're getting paid to do it. But you're putting your car back to that is how you deal with the consequences.
Yeah. And if
now, how does that fail when we're talking about a pregnancy? How does that analogy fit? Because I'm assuming that you're going to claim that this analogy is there's a disconnect somewhere. Where is that disconnect? And if not, then why is it different?
Right. The disconnect is we're talking about if I'm alone with myself in a car and I get in a car accident. Let's say I wrap my car around a tree. Whether it was my fault or not, maybe the roads were icy, maybe they weren't. I wrapped the car around a tree. That affects me and the tree. Okay? Now, let's say...
Well, that possibly affects other people, too.
Anyway.
Possibly, sure. Okay, let's say I hit another person. All right?
Okay.
Let's take it a step further. Let's say I knew... Somehow I had this omnipotence, and I knew that if I were to drive today, I was going to hit another person, and it was going to total my vehicle. But I also knew that if I could somehow make this person not exist, it would change the accident. I don't know if this is a good analogy or not, but it makes sense in my head. Now,
I'm not following
that. This is my point. My point is you are not allowed to infringe on other people's rights just because it affects you. That is my point. It was a crude analogy, I'll grant you, but...
Okay. Is bodily autonomy a right?
No.
Okay, then we're just not going to see eye to eye because...
Do we ever dictate what people can and can't do with their bodies?
Well... Bodily autonomy is the right to not have anyone else tell you how to use your body. It's why we have laws around organ donation and blood donation, even from cadavers. You can't take an organ from a cadaver unless they had or someone they trusted signed off on it. You can't do that. And you can't use someone's body to prolong another life in any circumstance, because that would violate their bodily autonomy even after death.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, and I don't understand where you're coming up with this concept of bodily autonomy. We regulate all the time what people can and can't do with their bodies. You don't have the right to do meth. We have created laws against that.
I have the right to do meth. It would be done illegally, but I can take meth should I want to. You can't force me to take meth, but it's not about doing something to your body. It's not about drinking or smoking. It's have someone forcing you to use your body for the service of somebody else to prolong their life. It's the reason why slavery is so bad and illegal and terrible and immoral. And the reason and how I come to this is through my humanism. I believe that all humans should have the right to bodily autonomy. You can't tell me to use my body for someone else. It is mine.
Right.
Okay? And that includes a woman's uterus.
Okay. What is a right? You keep appealing to rights. What is a right?
Do you want to look up a dictionary?
A right is something that you are allowed to do, that we've agreed as a community. You have a right to do. Well, I suppose that's a circular definition, isn't it? Yeah, it's tough to define.
It is
slippery.
It is something you are inalienably allowed to do under any given circumstance. You know, rights are pretty much, a right is universal. Of course, they are by their very nature only given. Like, I believe certain people should have rights. Some people don't have them. I mean, slavery still exists in the US. Prisoners can still be used for slave labor, and I think that violates their right of bodily autonomy. It's legal. I don't think it's moral.
Fact about rights. If you think about it for more than 5 minutes, okay, they don't exist. What you
Do you think it's okay to have an abortion if the fetus is not killed in the process?
That would just be giving birth.
Yeah, that's what a lot of late-term abortions are.
Yeah.
It's just delivery, premature delivery.
But would you be, you're okay with that?
Would I be okay with a woman giving birth? Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And what if the baby is not in a position developmentally to survive on their own once they're out?
So is this forced, or is this just a byproduct of nature?
Just what I said. That's all. I'm just asking. If the baby is not in a position to survive on its own developmentally, do you think that would be how does that change things?
Well, I'm trying to understand the premise of your question. Are you saying that she's going through preterm labor completely naturally, or we've induced labor?
I didn't say anything about labor.
Okay, well, that's kind of a big issue.
Well, okay. Well, let's say that the fetus is surgically removed and it's not a naturally occurring labor.
Okay,
it was alive when they took it out, and then it died shortly thereafter because it wasn't at a developmental stage where it could survive on its own. In other words, it wasn't an individual.
It wasn't an individual?
Right.
And you have a problem. Okay, so you're arguing that because...
If you have a problem with the word individual, then set that aside. We can add that in later. Do you think ending a pregnancy itself is where you have a problem, or is it that the fetus dies?
My problem is that we killed it.
Well, you don't have to. But that's not the example that I'm talking about.
Uh-huh.
If it's removed alive and then subsequently dies from natural causes, you're okay with that?
No, I am against human intervention that results in the death of another.
Okay, we're getting into the thing of fetal personhood, and we're not going to agree on that either.
Yeah.
There are, and again, Dr. Ben in the background he's going to be going absolutely bloody spare if he wasn't so diligently working on something else at the same time, being the best doctor he can be. He'd be like, he'll have sheets of notes on how medically inaccurate all this chat is, probably from us as well, Scott. Like, we're not medical experts.
I'm not. Yeah.
But here's my point. Like, all of that aside, you declared that you don't believe that bodily autonomy is a human right. And then when I push back on that, you said, well, what's a right? Do rights exist? It's like, the concepts of rights exist. We have, do morals exist? Does love exist? Do emotions exist? These are all concepts. They're not, you can't hand me a bag of morals. You can't give me a box of rights. You can't sprinkle me with emotions. They're not physical things you can carry and manipulate and measure, but they are concepts that we have come to understand are real and we can work on. So yes, they are real.
How? Can you point to one? Where is a...
Can you point to a daydream?
To a what?
A daydream. Point to a daydream. Hand me a daydream.
No, because it didn't exist.
Okay, but you still have them.
The experience.
Do you have ambitions? Do you have ambitions?
The daydream itself didn't exist.
So, yeah, but Sean, do you have ambitions?
Sure.
Hand one to me.
The ambition itself does not exist.
So what's your point? You still have them.
Right.
My point is you're appealing to vapor. Okay.
No, I'm appealing to concepts that have definitions that are accepted. And you're being just straight pedantic now because you go, I have ambitions. I'll hand you one. Well, you're appealing to vapor. Your ambition is vapor.
The
Why have
vapor
them?
that we're appealing to is our respect for each other as human beings.
Yeah.
Well and good. And
Is that vapor to you?
The difference is applying that same courtesy to the unborn.
So that would come after establishing that that's a human being.
Well, I'm not asking the fetus to use their body to help people. In fact, I'm asking very politely the fetus to stop using their body to kill someone slowly.
Wait, what? So if she's healthy, then this argument doesn't apply?
Well, harm her, not kill her. Do harm.
Um,
You can get over it.
What?
So you want her?
I've had enough. She can get over it.
She can get over it. That's kind
there's
of an end of it,
nothing I can
think.
say that would be better than ending it there.
Yeah,
I'm fine. Jamie, you're welcome to continue if you want, but I've had enough of this shithead.
That's an end of it. I really wanted to have a good faith conversation, and I thought we were going to have one, and we didn't. Right, while I call my jets, would you be so kind as to read out the patrons for us? And
Absolutely. Every week we reach out and thank our top 5 patrons for that week. And so our top 5 patrons for this week are at the number 1 slot, Dingleberry Jackson, a perennial favorite there. Number 2, Oops, all singularity. Number 3 is Kalevi Helveti. Number 4 is Casey Kickendall. And number 5, my personal favorite, Period. Just a period character. And in at number 6 with our honorable mention this week is Stephen McDougall. So thank you to everyone that gives to us on Patreon. If you want to have your name read on the air, then please consider supporting us at aca.show/PatreonTH.
Okay.
So we appreciate to all of the Patreons out there. Me especially giving a shout out to Just a Period character.
Nice. Sorry. I had a bit of a technical issue there with the calling studio. I thought I dropped him. I think he was still on the line, but I think he was muted.
Speaking of the Patreon, though, I've heard that we retally these each week, and so it's not like you're going to be way behind. If you want to get your name on that top 5 list, take action now, and maybe we could get you in for next week. So it's not like you're coming in late and you're going to have to play catch up with the dominant people on our list here. So let's get in there and mix it up.
I would miss saying the words Dingleberry every Sunday, though. I would.
I'll reserve the option to say Dingleberry Jackson, even if Dingleberry Jackson does not make the top 5.
A legacy thing. Yes, fantastic. Yes. Now, it looks like we have someone else in screening. I don't know whether they're ready to come up, Anne, in the screening room. If crew wants to confirm whether I can just bring them up now or if I need to wait, just give us a shout. But I am, God, I was so frustrated by that call. Like, I want to find common ground, and I'm asking very base questions. And I don't, there are certain things where we're not going to find common ground if you don't think bodily autonomy is a human right.
Right. I don't think that well, I don't know. I shouldn't try to peer into the mind of the caller, but it seemed like I mean, considering we were talking about looking for common ground, it seemed like overly antagonistic, which is I'm fine having conversations like that, but in the guise of trying to find common ground. I mean, in this case, there are things that we can and should agree on. Regardless of whether or not we think a fetus is a person with rights, regardless of whether or not we think a fertilized egg is a person, quote unquote, with rights. Yeah. That's a separate issue. But there are things that we do agree on. We do agree that there's somebody here who's pregnant, who has rights, and who deserves to be cared for, and who deserves to have at least some kind of autonomy in the direction that their body is being included in, which includes things like dealing with consequences. For example, if you have sex and you get pregnant, that's fine. Dealing with that pregnancy could involve carrying the pregnancy to term and delivering a child. It could involve having an abortion. It could involve, spontaneous abortion as well. And I mean, there are other ways other than doing what you say they have to do.
Yep.
That still is dealing with consequences.
Yeah, like I'm affording, even if I afford the fetus personhood, which I don't think it's scientifically sound.
I think that makes it worse.
I afford it all of the rights I afford the mother, in that it has bodily autonomy. I'm not asking it to use itself, but if my existence was physically harming someone else, like I was doing something that was physically harming someone else, it's perfectly reasonable to stop me, even if it's at the cost of my life, depending on how bad. Well, not even depending on how bad it is. If I'm violating someone's, I live in a stand your ground state, man. If someone steps on your property here, and you feel threatened, they don't even have to actually harm you. You can take their life. I think that's pretty barbaric, but it's
but that's a very pro-life position you're talking about there, right? That's very common amongst the pro-life camp, is this idea of standing your ground, or things like I'm not going to provide you with health care because you're over 18 now. Really? Okay, so that's the pro-life position. It seems it's a very mixed message, and it seems very ad hoc to me.
Yeah, and the car analogy got away from us. I don't want to comment too much, but again, this finding common ground. This is the way I try and do it. Is that here is something that I can't compromise on, and I can give you the reasons why. Be it bodily autonomy, or the right to love who you want to love and be with who you want to be, the right to live an authentic life in whatever gender expression you want. These are all things that I have been, again, convinced of. These are beliefs I held, that I have been convinced of, and not all of them did I hold in the past. I was a much dumber man as a young'un.
And I think how that reflects on what we're talking about finding common ground. I think there is value in finding out where that uncommon ground is. If we're trying to test the boundaries of the differences between, say, us and a caller or whatever, it helps to know where that boundary is. I mean, examining your common ground is part of it. Examining your uncommon ground is another part of it. And then also challenging, making challenges, like both us and the caller, I thought we're doing good on challenging, the assumptions and the beliefs of the other person. Now, whether or not we were doing that fairly and successfully, that remains to be seen. But I think that we were being pretty fair and addressing that. But it seems like very often it's almost like there's a blinder's view, right? There's no idea on what else is happening, about the impact of what they're saying is having on this. And really, it just devalues the person who is pregnant, and that's just something that I can't agree with. And think that giving rights to a fetus or a child or to an embryo or even to a blastocyst or whatever the various stages are, if giving that rights at the expense of the person who's pregnant, then we're not talking about the same thing, I think.
Yeah. And we did get some more comments from our good doctor at the back saying you don't just get over preeclampsia or gestational diabetes,
right? And
they're extremely dangerous. I used to work back in England for an organisation offering help with weight management for pregnant people, because these issues, preeclampsia and gestational diabetes, which can be linked to higher weight or higher BMI, is so dangerous. Like you need to intervene on these things.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know, man. And I think that once we get Anne screened, it's going to be made.
We're all set. We're ready to roll. We're ready to bring Anne in here. Let's do that.
Yep. I said talk. Hello, Anne.
Anne, she, her from California. Anne, atheist Anne today, wants to share her experience with and discuss issues related to abortion. Hi, Anne. How are you doing today?
Hello, guys. How are you today?
I'm happy to talk to a woman about this because, boy, oh boy,
Yes.
do I always feel like how dare I? So what's on your mind?
Well, I really wasn't going to call in, but that conversation was that. I just want to say, and maybe I'm wrong for saying it, but it seems like it's pretty easy for a cis-het white Christian man to say human rights don't exist.
Right.
Either he doesn't know how high up on the hierarchy they are, but or
It seems like a very entitled thing to say, doesn't it?
It's my favorite part of the Constitution, the Bill of Vapor.
Right. Yeah, the bill of that old chestnut.
Well, I loved when Jamie said, tell me what a daydream is. Describe a daydream or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought that's vapor too, dude. So, but no.
It's the refuge of someone that doesn't have any actual talking points. Like semantic pedantry is, and I know it sounds rich as whipping cream coming out of the mouth of someone that sounds like a Star Wars villain, but I'd like to try and keep things simple if I can. And pedantry and going, well, that's not what that word means, really annoys me. But what did you want to get into, Anne?
Well, first, I have been pregnant 3 times in my life. And each time I made a different decision. So I know kind of what happens, or at least in my experience, with each decision. So my first time, I was 18, and it was non-consensual. And I carried the baby to term, and I gave her up for adoption. Okay. The second time, I terminated. And the third time, I kept the baby, my son. So I know they didn't bring up adoption or anything, but I don't know what to say. But,
well, you clearly were considerate in your options. I mean, you've definitely you've taken a variety of outcomes, and it was depending on your circumstances at the time and your state of mind at the time. And so do you feel like, well, let me ask it this way. How comfortable are you with the decisions that you made?
Well, I don't regret any of them. I don't. The abortion was my choice. It wasn't a medical issue or anything like that. But like you guys say, is someone entitled to just live inside, or a potential person, or anyone just allowed to just live inside your body and drain your resources? So I don't regret any of my decisions on that. But
I guess my point was, though, is that you're clearly thinking about it. It wasn't an off the cuff decision. It sounds like it was a very personal and very important decision, and you carefully considered the consequences and so forth, and you made that decision for yourself. And it wasn't a flip decision. It wasn't a casual decision. It wasn't a selfish decision necessarily. And so I think that's I appreciate, Anne, that you're sharing your story with us, because you're kind of giving people like Jamie and myself a glimpse into things that we can't and won't experience in our life. So thank you for sharing that.
Yep.
Right. Well, the decision to, I'm sorry, go ahead, Gene.
I was just about to say that I could have opinions on each of those different outcomes. But my thought on these, especially as a cishet white man, is it's not my choice, not my body, not my business. Your choices should always be yours. Now, I don't disagree with any of your choices. I mean, I think that whatever you thought was the best choice at the time is the best choice at the time. But even if I disagreed with one of them, that doesn't matter, and it shouldn't matter to these people. You can believe that abortion is murder, but you're not allowed. I don't think you should be allowed to legislate it into law.
No, and the laws are getting worse all the time. But sometimes, the so-called pro-life crowd says, well, women use abortion as birth control. No.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about. I mean, clearly that wasn't the case here. But to be fully open here, I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Yeah, neither would I, personally. I think it's your choice, and as long as it's done safely, and as long as it is a safe option. Again, if it does come with higher risks than using something like an IUD or proper, prophylactic contraception like a cup or a condom. And as we know from our sci-fi, multiple layers of shields are usually the best way to go. So as to keep them shields up, put your deflectors on double front. But it's only about 2 meters. I call it my womp rat. But anyway, back to seriousness. That if it's a viable option, if it's a safe option, I don't think there's any morality against it. If it's medically unadvisable, if using things like mifepristone would multiple times in quick succession as a form of birth control would have detrimental medical effects, then I'd have a problem with it, because I have evidence to show you're doing yourself a mischief that way. But that would be my only standpoint. And the thing that really gets me, and I want to get your thoughts on this, Anne, is that they keep talking about consequences. It's the consequences of your actions. But it always feels to me like it's punishment. You did this, you consented to sex, you harlot, and this is what you get. Your whole life is now dedicated to this other human being because you wanted to do a perfectly natural and, I dare say, quite pleasurable thing. And in your case, you didn't even want to do that. It was forced upon you, which is horrific. I can't imagine how terrible that is. So yeah, what do you think about that? Like abortion bans as punishment for women's indiscretions.
Well, see, that's my whole problem with the pro-life side. It's like they make it only about women. They kind of act like there's no man involved at all. And they do treat it like it's punishing women, because they don't even want to have health care for everybody.
Oh, don't get me started on healthcare, man. I left a perfectly good universal healthcare system behind, and I'm now facing down.
Still rethinking that one, huh?
I mean, a plane ticket is probably cheaper, but anyway.
Yeah.
Well, Anne, I have a question for you, Anne. In the interest of seeking common ground, what advice, as somebody who has faced the decisions that you've faced and has made those decisions, what would you have to say to somebody like our caller Sean, who has opinion on that and may not have experienced it the same way you have? What advice would you have in the interest of finding common ground? What would you say to Sean? And
I'm also going to just jump in again. We don't usually like referencing previous calls because we don't.
That's true. Yeah,
we don't want to Marvel.
So just in general,
Marvel universe. But someone who says bodily autonomy is not a human right and women can just get over it, and that this fetus is a person with its own human rights, human vapors. What do we think about that,
Anne? Like advice for someone like.
How would you try and bridge that gap? Do you think it's even possible?
If you were facing a person who was saying that, and you wanted to try to find common ground with that person, what would you have to do? Or do you not know? I mean, maybe you wouldn't say anything. Maybe you wouldn't even know how to deal with that situation.
And I'm not saying that you'd want to find common ground. I'm saying that if you thought you could possibly provide advice to people who might want to try and get common ground, and you're perfectly right to say, I have no advice. I wouldn't want to touch that guy with a 10-foot barge pole.
I would maybe ask them, like, okay, well, if you want to reduce abortions, then how about, comprehensive sex education and birth control?
Mm.
There we go. Actually that kind of highlights what you were saying before about how it seems like it's kind of a punishment. If reducing abortions is really the goal here, we have things that do that. We have things, if, like you were just saying, effective healthcare, effective sex education and that kind of thing, that reduces abortions. I mean, we have tons and tons of data and evidence that shows that. It's not that abstinence doesn't work. It's that abstinence education doesn't lead to abstinence. And so good education is what's needed if we want to be working from a position of knowledge and working and making the world a better place that we want. We have to know things, right?
Yep. And I bet that Sean, if he were to engage in that most risky behavior of getting his rocks off, were to catch something nasty because he didn't use a condom or something of that nature, and was risky about it, I'm sure he'd be very upset if the doctor said, well, you knew the risks going in, so I'm not going to give you these antibiotics. You're just going to have to deal with chlamydia on your own.
Right, yeah. You agreed to this, to this infection ahead of time by having sex.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I think condoms are very important because birth control for women doesn't do anything to prevent disease or at least reduce the chances of disease. It's strictly birth control.
Mm. And when they were pioneering... Oh, go ahead.
Probably be encouraging condom use or something. But,
yeah, certainly. And when they were developing birth control, hormonal birth control for men, which is a thing that they were doing during the clinical trial phase, it was deemed unmarketable because men didn't like dealing with the side effects. Womp,
that's
womp.
part of the problem.
Wah. So much for that responsibility, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, but they don't mind women having to deal with the side effects.
Exactly. All right, so anything else on your mind that we can go over? And it's been quite cathartic talking to you regarding this.
Yeah, well, I just want to say one thing about abstinence-only education.
Mm-hmm.
It just reminds me of the just say no to drugs period in the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
And that was so effective.
That worked. Yeah.
Prohibition.
Yeah.
That went real well.
Well, it worked so well that when I was a teenager, they were saying just say no. But then when my son was a teenager, I was saying stay out of my stash.
Yeah, not to reveal too much about myself, but every encounter with anything that might be termed as illicit, I've actually done under family supervision of people who were experienced and cared about me. Now, some people say that's really messed up. That is, I shouldn't have done that. But it's like, I'm gonna do it anyway. Being educated as to this is what this does, this is why people take it, this is why it's nice, but this is why it's dangerous. And if you could do it too much or do it too long, this is what can happen to you. And then hope that education, that's what we sort of need on it, as you say. Just prohibiting it just makes it taboo. And what do teenagers like to do? What they're told not to do.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Well, that's how the drug education, or it was just strictly anti-drug. It was all like even in school, just say no. That was all they would say. Just say no.
Yeah, I was on a different continent, but it was such a pervasive thing during the 80s that we had it. Oh, I know how I encountered it, because we got arcade machines over from America in the UK. And they always had that William F. Sessions, FBI, winners don't do drugs. And I'm like, And I'm like, Lance Armstrong would beg to differ, but there we go. But anyway, thank you very much for calling in. And again,
and we really appreciate the perspective you shared with us today.
And again, I'm so glad to have not only a woman's voice on this, but someone who's been through it and made those decisions. So we're going to let you go. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And And here we go.
Okay, thanks. You guys have a wonderful day.
You
All right.
too.
Thanks,
Lovely
Ann.
day.
Have a good day.
No! Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dear. I hit the wrong button. I'll talk to team after, and I'm gonna get a bollocking from Greg because I hit the wrong button. And that's my fault.
The whole thing's coming crashing down.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
You know what? I think we're coming up to the end of the show here. I did want to finish my story from earlier. Right?
Yes,
I was talking about finding common ground. So my friend asked me to pray, and I did. I prayed for 30 days. I really tried, and I tried to put myself in a position where I could understand it. And I discovered something that was really cool. And I love talking about this, and I know it might not be, I suppose that's a great preamble, right? It might not be interesting to you, but it was the way that I could kind of resolve the things that I was saying and I was thinking was I had to kind of haze my mind out. You know, I equate it to one of those, those, I suppose I'm not talking to the right person here, Jamie, the blind Limey, but those magic eye pictures where if you stare at them for long enough, they're supposed to, something pops out, you know.
I know the concept. I can't do them, but yeah.
All right. Well, I felt myself, I've never really been good at those. I've had difficulty, people give me hints like, oh, just let your eyes go blurry or try to focus before, focus at the end. But what happens there is you intentionally harm your ability to see, right? You intentionally mess up your vision so that way your brain can put pieces together in a slightly different way. That's not actually reality. There's not really a spaceship sitting there in front of you or a goat or whatever it is you're seeing a picture of, right? It's not really a picture of a goat. It's your mind being tricked into thinking there's a picture of a goat. And so that's kind of what I had to do in order for me to accept some of the things. If I was reading a passage about, Noah's Ark or whatever, it was very difficult for me to reconcile and resolve that in my mind unless I let my mind go hazy and let the imperfections in our human brains kind of take over. Much of our vision is dealing with incomplete information, so we kind of piece things together, and so I thought that was really fun to experience, and I would encourage that to anybody who wants to give it a try. See what you can do to try to put yourself into that mind of the other person.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that all religious people do that. I'm not trying to say that that's what's happening when religious people are believing what they believe. I'm just saying that that's what I had to do to try to see things from that perspective, was kind of throw my own vision out of whack and my own thinking out of whack. But it was really fun to do. And spoiler alert here, I was not converted. I did not hear God at all. I did not, it didn't work on me, quote unquote.
I did not hear him. I did not.
Yeah, I didn't. Although my friend was convinced that I gave it, the good old college try, and that I was being sincere. So I consider that to be a success to some extent.
And that's all you can do, use your best and to be sincere about it. So I'm going to ask again, and with humblest apologies for jumping up in the middle of a call and also startling the crew, because I think we had a bit of a technical issue there, and that I'm going to take, that's my fault. Boy, oh boy, I'll land this plane on one wing if I have to, but I'm going to bring up our lovely backup host, Dr. Ben, who has been instrumental in debunking bollocks today.
Dr. Ben.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, yes, I think so.
Audible? Okay. Yeah, that call was an absolute mess. And even just the idea that termination is more dangerous than pregnancy is one of the biggest myths out there. And this idea, especially that healthy people aren't going to experience severe complications, is an absolute lie, because most of the time you start off with a very uncomplicated pregnancy, but you never know who is going to end up with complications. And the thing is, with some of these more emergency measures, you don't know if you're going to be the one who needs them. And having it happen in the moment is not the time to determine what risk you want to take for your own body. That's something that should be evaluated earlier on, especially, let's say, if you have some other medical condition like Marfan's. Like, it is generally recommended not to get pregnant if you have Marfan's, because your aorta could rupture and you could die pretty much instantly. So
Yeah.
it's up to everybody to determine what their own risk threshold is. But I would ask this caller, do you think you have the right to tell somebody else what their risk threshold should be? And we didn't even get into the point of what if those people didn't consent? What are they supposed to do in those cases? So it's just so much misinformation about pregnancy termination, and he should. I don't know when I'm going to be on as a host again because I'm super busy. But when I am, he should call back about those arguments and we'll chat.
Well, I think what we saw here though did expose some of the assumptions and some of the assumptions that his beliefs were being built on, and I think that. And we saw that when we actually had productive discussion, it kind of undermined the position that he was building up, that he was bricking up and trying to build solid, and it wasn't coming across as solid. And so, and we didn't even get to any of the things that Dr. Ben was just talking about. And so it seemed like fell flop just from the beginning.
Yeah, and we didn't even get into the whole he just slipped in it's overblown that abortion bans are being used as a method of control. And I would have argued till I was blue in the face about that, because there's a few things you can't do very easily while you're pregnant, like work or go to school. So yes, it definitely limits a woman or a person with a uterus, their ability to undertake things that a man can when they're expecting.
Yeah.
But anyway, we are hurtling headlong towards the end of our show. It's been fantastic to have both of you with us. Thank you very much, Scott, for being my wingman, co-pilot, second pair of eyes, and compatriot. Thank you, Dr. Ben, for being the wisest man and most knowledgeable dude, and also fairly good at driving simulators, I guess. And I would just like to ask you, who would you like to send love rings out to?
Well, I'll go ahead and say I would like to send love rings to, like I said before, all the fathers and father figures out there. My dad especially, happy Father's Day today, and love to all the fathers and father figures.
How about yourself, Ben?
I'm going to send it out to everyone who's experienced religious oppression, because apparently some people believe that that's not real, and that's invalidating to all of you.
And I'm going to send love rings out to everyone who's come into the country and is basically being fantastic interpersonal ambassadors for so many countries, despite how onerous it can be here sometimes. So it's fantastic. So I'm going to segue us into the ending. I'm going to set it up, and I'm going to trust you, Scott, to knock it down, because Talk Heathen is a show for everybody. And if you don't believe, then this is your place. But if you do believe, we don't hate you.
We're just not convinced. See ya.
We want the truth. So watch Truth Wanted Live, Fridays at 7 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTTW and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect online at tiny.cc/call TW.